Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., Monday through Friday. It's a daily show. We've got to jump right in, folks, because there's so much going on. In fact, Justin Trudeau, he attempted to be a tough guy here, and Elon Musk, he of course puts him in his place. He tries to be all tough. Oh yeah, Canada will not become the 51st state. Donald Trump, he's been true socialing and putting it out there. The post. There's this one picture he put out, Donald Trump, and it's the United States and Canada, and all of it is like the American flag. And he says, "Oh Canada." He captions the picture, "Oh Canada." I am so excited for Donald Trump to make the Western Hemisphere great again. So, of course, Donald Trump, he threatened these tariffs against Canada, which is what Trump does, right? He threatens all kinds of countries with tariffs. And Trudeau, he got his panties in a bunch, and he got on the first flight to Florida to go kiss the ring and beg him to not to tariff Canada. And as Trump was polishing his ring, the ring to kiss, he made a hilarious joke about Canada being the 51st American state and how it would be almost cheaper for Canada to just become the 51st state and Trudeau could be the governor. Right. So not shortly after, but shortly after that little visit he made to Florida, he actually announced that he was going to not only resign as the Liberal Party leader of Canada, but he was going to resign as Prime Minister. Not everyone thought the joke was funny, obviously. The socialists that have made Canada a socialist paradise, they didn't think it was very funny that Trump joked about it becoming the 51st state. Now, I think that Greenland is actually going to become a part of the United States. I'd imagine he'd probably make it into a territory, much like Canada. And I don't really know if I want Canada, because do we really want more socialists? If anything, why don't you guys just kind of take California? I wouldn't mind giving Canada California, Washington, Oregon, and you guys can all be progressive losers together. But we're going to get to that because Justin Trudeau, he actually got out on Twitter and he says this thing like, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that Canada is going to be the 51st state of the United States. And then Elon Musk, our boy, he comes and shoves a pie right in his face, right, with this tweet. And he says, "Girl, you're not the governor of Canada anymore, so it doesn't matter what you say." In other words, Elon, he's saying that Canada was already the 51st state of America, practically. We provide them their defense, we secure their border. And then how does Canada return the favor? They violate our trade agreements, and they screw us over with their government subsidized crap, and they dump it into our country, and we can't compete with the pricing. So yeah, Trudeau was looking like a little weakling about Donald Trump, saying, "Oh, Canada's going to be the 51st state," and Elon Musk comes in, and he just really just twists the knife, and he gives him like a cyber wedgie. He comes in with this tweet, and he says, "You're not even the prime minister anymore, dude. Why do you even care? You're literally old news." So we're going to get to that, but there's so much more I want to get to today. I want to get to this trans activist. He thought he got away with lying about his gender on his driver's license. Now, you can't do that in the state of Florida. In the state of Illinois, you can put whatever gender you probably want on there. You could probably put X on there. But the Florida DMV, they actually saw this trans activist's his post, and then they were like, whoa, wait a minute, you lied about your gender. Thank you for pointing this out on your very public social media. We're issuing you a corrected driver's license that reflects your biological sex, male. Okay, so we're going to get to that. Plus, Donald Trump is going nuclear. He is blasting Governor Gavin Newscum. I love this nickname that Trump has for Governor Gavin Newsom, Newscum. And he blames Newsom for all of the woke policies as to why the woke policies are the reason why LA is on fire, literally. He blames the wildfire on Governor Gavin Newsom. And Trump's right. I always bring this up, and if there's farmers listening, give me a text 309-451-9299. You can also comment. I'm live on YouTube, Rumble. I live in Illinois, and a couple of years ago on I-55, I think it was southbound. I gotta double check, but there was this huge pileup, and it was because there was like a dust bowl in Illinois. And a lot of these woke policies, so the Maui wildfires, the reason why those happened was because there weren't controlled burns. Another reason why the LA fires are happening is because the Biden administration, just with the sweep of his pen, made it to where you can't do controlled burns anymore. Now, I don't know if people in Illinois are actually following that, because I'm pretty sure that I saw in my community, Custer Park, Illinois, the forest preservation people, they went out there and started doing controlled burns. Why? Because it works and it prevents forest fires. Okay, in Illinois, we have to worry about these, especially around the fall. Forest fires, they issue burn warnings, like not to burn on certain days because it gets really windy. And that's what LA is dealing with, these gusts of wind, and it's just taking the fire all throughout LA. And it's really, really tragic. But the Dust Bowl in Illinois can be attributed, and I talked to some farmers about this. Now, forgive me, farmers, I don't remember the name of the process here. And they switched it in Illinois, the way you go about tilling up your land. Okay, because you can't till it up so deep. And I remember as a kid, I couldn't even go out into the cornfields and step on the soil because it was like quicksand. Like my shoes would be completely destroyed if I went out into the field after they had tilled it up, because they tilled it up so much and it was so deep. But they changed it here in the state of Illinois because, the methane gas or whatever, the gases that are released from the soil, you would go out, as a kid, I would go out and it was like quicksand and it was just like so mushy. My shoes would be completely ruined, and you could actually smell the gases in the soil after they tilled it for the spring. Okay, in the spring, they till it all up and then they plant it. Now, corn, you don't need to plant it very far. It's only like a couple of inches in the soil, because you can practically grow corn on water. I mean, it doesn't need to go all the way down, but the more you till it, the better the crop. And the soil is just richer the more and more you till it. Now, we used to, prior to equipment and everything like that, the luxuries of modern farming equipment, we used to just put cows out there, or pigs. Have you ever seen pigs destroy a field? It takes like within the hour they've got that field tilled up. But we don't do that anymore. We use the farming equipment. And what Illinois did, they changed the process, and you can't till as deep into the ground anymore. So when I was a kid, you could smell it. As soon as they were done tilling up the ground, you could go out there, smell it, and it's deep. They've tilled it multiple times, and they tilled pretty deep to loosen up that soil and get the nutrients. Now there's fertilizer and stuff like that. And, the fuel it takes to go over the field a couple of times, they said, the green weenie Illinois Democrats, they were like, we won't till it up so much. One, because it releases like gases into the air, pseudoscience. They're like, that's bad for the environment. And then they also said, it takes a lot of gas to till it up like that. We're just going to use fertilizer, and we're just going to slightly till it up. So now you go out into the field, it's like barely tilled. Like I've noticed this major change within the last, I don't know, say 7 years of my life. Where they changed this process. So now, that moisture, when you till it up more and more, that moisture isn't coming to the top. And now it's just kind of like this crappy soil that's dusty, and it blew out the crops. All of this dust kind of blows out into the interstate and kills multiple people. There's a pile up on the interstate. So these tragedies can be explained. Some of the time, and most of the time, these tragedies come out of these woke policies. They changed the way farming was done here in the state of Illinois, and that's why we're starting to see dust bowls, and the soil is not as moist and rich. And, we get those big winds in June, tornado season, and we get those big winds. And we wind up with dust bowls here in the state of Illinois, and we've never really seen anything to that extent before. So that was a couple of years ago. I'd have to pull up the article. I just know that they changed the Illinois farming practice to better for sustainability reasons and for green energy climate change reasons. And now the people are dying because of it. We're getting rid of things like controlled burns. We're getting rid of, and I'm going to get to this, Donald Trump blasting Governor Gavin Newsom because he wanted to save like a tiny little fish. So he cut off the water reservoir that goes down from the northern part of the state all through California. And he's deprived the entire state of California of that water because he wanted to save a fish. I don't know. So we're going to go and talk about how Donald Trump has gone nuclear on Gavin Newsom, and he's blaming him for the fires because of the woke policies. Let's get to this trans activist. I'm going to do this story real quick, and then we're going to take a quick break. But the trans activist, he pulled a fast one on the DMV workers in Florida, by using his passport as a form of identification, and it incorrectly labels him as a female. Okay, so he is a male pretending to be a female, and that's most of the cases with these trans people. They are most of the time males pretending to be females because they have a weird fetish. So he used his passport as a form of identification, and he tried to pull a fast one on these DMV workers, and he bragged about the scheme on social media. And he has since been sent a letter by the Florida DMV workers thanking him for bringing this error to their attention. So his name is James Rose. He was male-born actress, author, whatever, and he brags about and he's got about 500,000 followers on TikTok. Okay, so he brags about his new Florida female driver's license on his TikTok account. And he says, "My God, Ron DeSantis would be screaming right now if he knew about this." He uses she, they pronouns, by the way. And he says, "There's a loophole. Listen up if you're replacing your driver's license." This is what he says in the video that he posted to TikTok. "Listen up if you're replacing your driver's license and not renewing it, but replacing it because you lost it. They have to take all of your information from what they consider a primary document." So he said that he, got his driver's license replaced because he lost it. And I'm using finger quotes here because he uses finger quotes in the video. It's implied that he didn't actually lose his driver's license, but there's a loophole that he was trying to use in the law. He wasn't renewing it, but he was replacing it. So they had to use a primary document like a passport. He says in the video, a passport is considered a primary document and you can self-identify on your passport. So he says, "My passport says I'm female," and I showed them my passport. And the whole DMV team, and now this video was riddled with profanities, which is why I'm delivering you what was basically in the video. And he says the whole team was meeting in the back, and they were staring at him and trying to figure out, if he was actually male or female, and if they were trying, or if he was trying to pull a fast one on the DMV workers. And there were like 8 people who were looking at it and then looking me and then looking back. And he goes, "I just wanted to cry. I just wanted to cry." This trans activist, he goes, "It's so humiliating. You put yourself in that position. Just go in there and put the M on your driver's license, male, driver. It says male on it. Okay, just do it. Be a man. Suck it up." And he goes, "It's so humiliating sometimes to live in this hostile state. You're making it humiliating. Okay, you guys are the ones that say that, gender doesn't matter. It's just this, non-binary thing. And why put labels on people? But yet you're like so willing to cry and you say you're humiliated because your license doesn't say female on it. I thought that the gender thing didn't really matter to you people." So he goes on in the video and he says, "On the way out of the DMV, a guy rolled down the window and yelled at me." He yelled something like, I can't say on the radio, but yelled some profanities at this guy, at this transgender individual. And he says, good things don't last forever. This is what he says in the video. But that license is going to last 10 years. And I'm wishing all the trans people a positive and easy get your documents in order December. And Ron DeSantis, you can blank. I can't say it on the radio. But, Ron DeSantis, has made it to where these transgender people can't fool the DMV and put fake and lie on their driver's license. Okay, so the free state of Florida says nope. We're going to follow the science. We're going to address people by male and female, and we're going to make sure that that license is accurate. Okay, because there's all kinds of things that can happen when you aren't accurate with those situations. Okay, so say you're transgender and you're in a horrible car accident and they have to identify you, and on your driver's license it says, female, but clearly you're in a horrible car accident and they can't really identify you other than, your sex. And they can tell that your body is, a male body, but your driver's license says female. There's going to be all kinds of confusion that comes from that. So it's important that you have the facts correct on that driver's license. Okay, so people need to stop blasting their fraud on the internet like this. This guy was blasting his blatant fraud. He was being fraudulent. He wanted to be a female. He wanted his driver's license to say female, and you're not supposed to do that in the state of Florida. It's supposed to be correspondent with your biological sex, what your driver's license says, because we go by facts only in the state of Florida, okay? So he uses this loophole with the passport and using that as a primary document where you can self-identify. Thank you, Joe Biden. We're going to get to that here in just a second as to why that is. But don't blast your fraud on the internet, okay? The DMV workers, they sent him a new license that reflected his true biological sex and the facts, and it says male on it. And he said the female one, they said it won't work. That driver's license is invalid. And this is the last thing you would probably want to do is blast your fraud on the internet. I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. We'll be right back. Good morning. I appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We're going to be right back in just a second. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Now, before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this trans activist. I'm going to finish up that story, and then I want to revisit this dust storm story. It actually happened in May of 2023 when 7 people died, over 30 people were hurt. This was in early May of 2023, this Illinois dust storm pileup crash. I got a couple of texts from listeners, and I want to readdress a couple of things. So before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this trans activist. He says, Ron DeSantis, you can blank, and can't say it on the radio, folks. This is bad. And he's out there on social media, and he's gloating about this loophole that he found in the law. He can, if you say you lost your driver's license, you can get your passport as a primary identification document, and you can bring your passport in and then get your driver's license replaced, and then you can get your preferred sex on your driver's license. Now, in the state of Florida, they go by your biological sex, so you can't get your preferred sex on there. So he had male on his driver's license, and through this loophole, by saying he replaced his driver, or saying he lost his driver's license, he brought in his passport, and his passport had female on it because you can self-identify on your passport. And you're probably thinking to yourself, whoa, wait a second. When did that become a thing? Okay, the real scandal here is that you can have the incorrect gender on your passport. And like I said, there's all kinds of things that can negatively impact this. Or can have a negative impact if you lie on your identification documents. Okay, if you're in a bad car accident, it's crucial that your identification documents correspond with your biological sex and what you actually are, whether you're male or female. Okay, and having the incorrect gender on your passport is also not only a risk to national security, it's a risk to you. If there is a plane crash and we can't identify you, like, these are identifying documents, and it's crucial that these are factual. And turns out somebody gave Sleepy Joe a pen, and Sleepy Joe changed the law here. So in June of 2021, the State Department announced that it would no longer require passport applicants to submit medical certification to change their gender marker on their passport. So it doesn't matter, it used to be, and that's how crazy this is, this progressivism, because it was already kind of progressive. Like, transgender people, if you went through the gender transition, if you were like that serious about your transgenderism, and if you really believed that you were a boy, or if you really believed that you were a girl, you went to the extent of changing your gender through a gender transitioning surgery. You had to provide that documentation that you actually went through that surgery when obtaining your passport, if you wanted it to reflect the gender that you had transitioned to. Okay, so under that policy, a transgender person could obtain a passport reflecting their gender by submitting an application with the chosen gender marker selected. This policy replaced the department's old policy requiring certification by a physician of appropriate clinical treatment for gender transition, which had been in place since 2010. So it wasn't even that bad of a policy. It was pretty progressive already. You could submit documentation that proved that you transition. But now the way the policy is, a transgender person can obtain a passport reflecting their preferred gender. So you don't have to go through any kind of medical documents or any kind of hoops like that. You don't have to submit medical certification to change your gender marker on your passports. You can actually just say what you want to be on your passport, whether that's male, female, or X. So as of 2022, applicants may self-select a male, female, or X gender marker for their passport. And you don't need to submit any kind of medical documentation that says that you were going through gender transitioning surgery. So if gender means nothing on a passport, as proven, by the fact one can ignore marking any kind of gender with an X. Okay, so that's really what this is. It means, like, if you can put X on a passport for your gender, that means it's meaningless, and there's no reason to even have that on your passport, your gender on your passport at this point, because if you can just put an X in there, then it's meaningless. why even have it on these federal documents? Why even have what is your gender? And if gender is meaningless to these people, which clearly they think it's meaningless because you can put an X there, which what does X even mean? If it's meaningless to these people, why do they break down and cry when their gender is not accurately reflected in their head on their driver's license, and they're humiliated because their gender isn't so-called accurately displayed on their license as they would describe it? So it's something the left can never explain, because they'll say, oh, gender is just, it's the non-binary, it doesn't really matter. You can be whatever you want to be. But then, it really does matter, because they break down and cry if their driver's license doesn't reflect the gender that they prefer. So this sanity prevails in Florida because these DMV workers, they found out, folks, that this guy tried to dupe them because he blasted it on social media, this loophole in the law, using his passport. Because of Joe Biden, you can, put female if you prefer to be called female. This guy preferred to be called female, and on his passport it says female. And then if he replaced your driver's license, they have to go off that primary documentation. And they were all staring at him because they were trying to figure out if this guy is a girl or a man. And they all knew, but they went with the primary documentation, and they gave him the driver's license that said female on it, but they invalidated, the DMV workers invalidated that driver's license. And they said, here is your accurate driver's license, which reflects your true biological sex, male. So woohoo, at least sanity prevails in Florida. Now, I want to get to this text that came in, 309-451-9299. They said, there's no rules on methods of tillage. Now, I don't know if you're a farmer, perhaps there are no rules, like you have to till or do no tillage. So we're going to get to this where there's no ban on tillage in the state of Illinois. I want to be clear about that. But he says anyone can do whatever they want. The dust storms were just high winds, low humidity, freshly worked soil, and just bad luck, and it occurs all of the time. Well, I don't know about that, because I've noticed several dust storms. So there was one in May of 2023, and then there was another one in May of 2024 right near Bloomington, and it prompted a shutdown of parts of the Interstate 55 and Interstate 74. So that was in May of 2024, but the one on May of 2023 actually led to people dying. 7 people died, 30 people hurt, and I truly do believe that it's because of the no tillage practices that a lot of farmers are participating in. Now, like I said, I want to clear something up. I said that, Illinois changed it. It's not that they banned tillage or that they, prohibited or they restricted farmers to no tillage farming practices. It's not that. It's that they incentivize farmers with money to do the no tillage practices. Okay. So as I told the texter, I said, no till farming in Illinois is supported and incentivized through various state programs as well as federal initiatives. These efforts aim to encourage farmers to adopt, quote, sustainable agricultural practices that contribute to environmental protection and help combat climate change. So no tillage. What is no tillage? No tillage is it's a method where crops are planted directly into the soil without disturbing it with plows or other tillage equipment. This method helps maintain the soil structure, reduces erosion, and allows organic matter to remain on the surface. The climate impact here, no-till farming helps store carbon in the soil, thus reducing carbon dioxide emissions, because I guess if you till it up, the carbon dioxide, you could actually pretty much smell. Like I said, when I was a kid, you'd go out into the fields after the till, and I mean, it was soft. You could not walk on it. It was like quicksand. And you could actually smell like the gases from the soil. You could actually smell it. But they say that the no-till farming, so not disturbing the soil at all is actually better for the environment because of it reduces the carbon emissions. Yeah, but at what cost? Because now we have 7 people dead from this dust bowl that happened, and they continue to happen, and they are rapidly increasing. Because I don't know about you, I'll have to find that out. I'll figure out how many dust bowls we've had in the state of Illinois over the course of 5 years. And I'm telling you, it seems like they're more and more frequent. So the no-till farming in Illinois, there's state-funded incentive programs and there's federal initiatives where farmers are rewarded for practicing these no-tillage methods. And that's dangerous, okay? Much like, and we're going to get to this here next, the no controlled burns. That's something that Joe Biden did, where you're not doing controlled burns anymore, and Donald Trump is putting Governor Gavin Newsom on blast, and he blamed him for prioritizing this worthless fish that nobody really cares about over proper water management. Okay, and what's proper with the tillage here in the state of Illinois is to till the ground up. Okay, till the ground up to plant the dang soil or the seed. Okay, that is the proper way. The proper water management is to allow the water from the Northern California, and to let it go all the way down throughout the state. And people mock Donald Trump because he criticized the woke policies that have led to water shortages in California. And now, fast forward to today, you've got these reporters mocking Donald Trump who criticize these woke policies about the fish, and, Governor Gavin Newsom trying to save this fish by, cutting off water supply to the downstate California. Today, we've got Los Angeles running out of water because of the woke governor, Gavin Newsom. He believes capturing rainwater causes climate change. That's why we're at where we're at today. So I'm going to get to Donald Trump's tweet blasting Governor Gavin Newsom here next on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. I left California because of these policies. Yeah. Whether it's the homelessness issue, where they're spending more and more money on the homelessness issue, which is just a scam. Okay. I don't know where that money's going, but they're spending all kinds of money. It's like $1.3 billion for homelessness. This homelessness industrial complex in 2024, they set aside Los Angeles 1.3 million or billion. I kept saying million. Billion with a B. All of this money is going towards the issue of homelessness, yet Governor Gavin Newsom's legacy here is overseeing the worst homelessness crisis in all of California's history. So it seems like the more money he puts towards it, the worse it gets, the homelessness, whether it's that or of course, the crime. Moving out of the state of California is probably the best decision you probably ever made. So good for you, Todd. But I'm going to get to Donald Trump's tweet here, where he says he wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called the smelt. By giving it less water, it didn't work. But didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I will demand that this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. So I guess this smelt fish doesn't survive in water. And he's true. This is all accurate stuff. What Donald Trump is saying, there was a policy implemented to try to save this fish, and they deprived the state of water. And now the ultimate price is being paid because LA is literally on fire. And Donald Trump goes on. He says he is to blame for it. On top of it all, no water in the fire hydrants, no firefighting planes. This is a true disaster. Yeah, no firefighting planes. And we're going to get to the embarrassing mayor. Her name is Karen. Yes, her name is Karen. She went on vacation to Africa. She's back now, but the Los Angeles Fire Department chief is a DEI advocate. She prioritized diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we talked about a lot yesterday. Shouldn't matter how light, dark your skin color is. Shouldn't matter what you do in the bedroom. It's a merit-based system. Everything should be off of a merit-based system. This is why McDonald's is fleeing from the DEI practices. Walmart last year did it. Harley Davidson did it last year, and it's probably because they saw the writing on the wall that Donald Trump was going to win, and they don't want to suffer the consequences of doing something illegal, by the way. Let's not forget that this is illegal, discriminatory. You can't hire based off of somebody's skin color, how light and dark it is. Okay, that's just, one, it's immoral. Two, it's illegal. So the Los Angeles Fire Department chief, she actually pushed for DEI practices within the fire department. That's what they prioritized over, purchasing firefighting airplanes. The Biden administration, they stopped doing controlled burns, which is why we saw the Maui wildfire. It was all dry. They're not doing correct forest preservation in Maui. They're not doing correct forest preservation in California. They didn't do it in Maui. It was all dry. And when they had these wind gusts, it took down the power, what do you call those? Power lines. It took down the power lines, and the power lines fell on all of this brush, and it started a fire. And that's why Maui burned to the ground practically, and people died. There was a memorial that Joe Biden slept at, by the way, a Maui memorial, where we were remembering the people we lost at this memorial, and Joe Biden's snoozing. The fire hydrants don't work, and this is Democrat supermajority rule. Okay, and this is why people like Todd have fled from the state of California. It's because of these policies, and you can't make up this level of incompetence. Why would you want to? Okay, so we're going to get to Governor Gavin Newsom. He actually responds to Donald Trump blasting him. He was on CNN with Anderson Cooper, and we're going to get to that, but Donald Trump blamed California Governor Gavin Newsom for the apocalyptic wildfires ravaging LA, and this is a very specific part of LA. And now I've never been to California, but the Pacific Palisades. I guess this is like a very rich area and maybe Todd, you can chime in if you're still watching. The Pacific Palisades in Los Angeles are where really wealthy people live. So, I hope and I pray that a lot of these leftists in California start to vote for change. They keep voting in the same, and they think that there's going to be improved results if they just keep voting the same people, and the same Democrats vote blue no matter who, right? Unfortunately, they're going to keep getting the same results if they keep that ideology or keep that way of voting. Okay, so Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign a water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of waters from excess rain and snow melt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California. So he refused to sign it because he actually wanted to save this little smelt fish. So we're going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, welcome to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Donald Trump, he put Governor Gavin Newsom, man, I really love that nickname. He put him on blast, goes totally nuclear, and he blames him for prioritizing, quote, this worthless fish that nobody cares about over proper water management. Okay. And reporters mocked Donald Trump. They said, he's calling out Governor Gavin Newsom for, these sustainability policies. Well, these woke policies, they're not sustainability policies because it didn't even do anything to protect the fish. where he deprived rainwater, capturing rain. He didn't want to capture the rainwater and let it flow down to parts of California, the downstate parts of California. He said no to signing this declaration that would have allowed the excess snowmelt and the rain from flowing down to downstate California. He said no to that because he wanted to protect the little fish that actually dies if you give it more water. So it's a weird fish. Nobody really cares about it. What kind of fish dies from from having too much water? It's weird. A smelt. So that's the name of the fish. So I want to play this. This was Donald Trump talking about these woke policies and how dangerous they actually are. Today, you've got Los Angeles running out of water because this woke governor truly believes that capturing rainwater is not sustainable and that it's bad for the environment, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So let's take a listen. Here we go to Donald Trump. Tearing into the Biden administration's energy policies. Now, remember, the Biden administration also did away with controlled burns, which is exactly what happened in Maui. Had they been doing correct forest preservation, the wildfires in Maui probably would have never happened. Take a look.
These people are crazy. There's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with them. They also want to go back, and they have already started that, to when you buy a faucet, no water comes out because they want to preserve. Even in areas that have so much water, you don't know what to do. It's called rain. Comes down from heaven, and they want to do no water comes out of the shower. It goes drip, drip, drip. So what happens? You're in the shower 10 times as long. No water comes out of the faucet. You want to wash your hands. They want to go back to even stronger than what they have right now. As you know, I ended that policy. You can have all the water you want. Makes no difference. It comes weird, especially in certain areas. We have so much water, we don't know what to do with it. These people.
Okay, so what Donald Trump was talking about there were conservation methods that have been implemented in California. I think there's something like you can't water your lawn for a certain period of time, like you can only water your lawn on Saturdays or something like that. So he's talking about the conservation methods there in California and how the wokeness is actually really, really dangerous. And President-elect Donald Trump blamed California Governor Gavin Newsom, according to the New York Post, for the apocalyptic wildfires ravaging this. It really is a specific area of it's all of Los Angeles, but the specific area is really getting hit. It's called the Pacific Palisades. And apparently this is a pretty rich area in LA, claiming he chose to save an extinct tiny little fish species instead of complying with Donald Trump's administration order to send more water to Southern California. So this was all back when Trump was in there the first time, and he wanted Governor Gavin Newsom to sign this declaration, water restoration declaration put before him, and he wouldn't sign it, and he refused to sign it. And what this declaration would have done was allow millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snowmelt to go all the way down the state of California from the north to areas that are currently on fire in a very apocalyptic type way. So the Los Angeles Fire Department has gotten actually less funding. Meanwhile, you have Los Angeles setting aside $1.3 billion, that's $1 billion with a B, for homelessness. And really it's a scam, because the more money they put towards homelessness, the worse it almost gets, right? Because they keep putting money towards this homelessness industrial complex, and it never gets better, because Gavin Newsom's legacy is that he is overseeing currently the worst homeless crises in California history. Okay, at no point in history has it been this bad, the homelessness. And he sits back and he's going to watch his state just be engulfed in flames. And he could have done something to prevent this, and he didn't do it because why? He wanted to protect a stupid little fish, an extinct tiny fish species that dies from too much water. What kind of fish is this? Right? It dies from having too much water. Give me a break. All right, I'm going to be right back. We're going to be talking a little bit more about Donald Trump and him going after the progressive priorities. And these progressive priorities, as these people would be beholden to, the carbon emissions with the no tillage, right? Enforcing that. Now we're seeing dust bowls in the state of Illinois. These progressive priorities nobody really cares about, but they're so beholden to these, and they ignore ways to prevent these preventable disasters. And they're so beholden to these progressive priorities, they ignore preventatives for these natural disasters. So I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I so do appreciate you tuning in. I feel sorry for the first responders. Please have patience with them. Yeah, some of these first responders, not the DEI picks, obviously, but the ones that got into this for the all the right reasons, they have to take their orders from, because that's how it goes. Your police, your fire, they take orders directly from the mayor. Okay, the mayor is their boss. And you're the mayor's boss. See, but yeah, I feel bad for the first responders. They're pretty much defanged, much like the defund the police movement. You've got 25% less funding than the homeless scam industry. So the the Los Angeles Fire Department got 25% less funding than the homeless scam industry. So they're throwing all this money to the homeless issue, and a lot of these homeless people are probably illegal immigrants. I'm not going to lie to you. But also, the more money you throw towards this, it seems like it doesn't get any better. Probably because they chose this way of life. If you talk to homeless people, a lot of them prefer that way of life, and because of rolling back on things like solicitation and loitering and all of that, they have allowed that lifestyle to flourish, and they haven't gone after people who loiter. They haven't gone after people who publicly are intoxicated and are like living in the streets. That stuff used to be a big no-no. You used to get arrested for that type of behavior. It's called loitering. It's called public nudity. If you're living, in the streets, you're open air drug deals, all of that is going on. But they've rolled back on all of those laws, and they don't enforce those laws anymore in the state of California. So it incentivizes that lifestyle. So it doesn't matter how much money you put towards it. If people want that lifestyle, they're just going to continue with that lifestyle, and they don't want homes. They want to be able to do open air drug deals and live in the streets. So it doesn't matter if you put $1.3 billion towards it. It's just never going to get any better. And at the expense of the fire department, they're funding this homeless issue in Los Angeles. Okay, so they cut the funding for Los Angeles Fire Department, and then they put all the funding towards the homeless issue. And if it's working, then why isn't it working? Okay, if the funding, and if you keep funding the homeless issue, you would think that it would get better, but it's not getting any better. Governor Gavin Newsom's legacy is that he is overseeing one of the worst homeless crises in California history. Not one of the worst, the worst homeless crises in California history. And he is sitting back and he's watching his state burn at the expense of these homeless people who want to be homeless, or at the expense of the LA residents. And they're putting these homeless people above the LA residents in this area, the Pacific Palisades. They're choosing the homeless population over these residents who are now dying from these wildfires because they've defunded the Los Angeles Fire Department. I'll be right back. Go ahead, smash that like button and share this out with your friends. All right, folks, welcome back. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Go ahead, smash that like button. Hello, welcome. Thanks for the stream. I live in Chicago. What is a dust bowl? It's like I don't know, like a dust storm. I think the Dust Bowl. A Dust Bowl is actually something that happened in the Great Depression, which was, similar. A Dust Bowl is just a ginormous. It's a multiple dust or multiple severe dust storms, and that's what the Dust Bowl was. Sorry, I should have corrected myself. It's dust storm. So there's been multiple dust storms. Actually, let me share this with you. I can do that. Make it easier on you. This was back in May of 2023. So you have, here's this article. Hopefully you can see it. This is the headline: Illinois dust storm pileup crash on I-55 involving 72 vehicles, leaves 7 dead and over 30 hurt. So the dust storms have become more and more frequent downstate. If you live in Chicago, you probably won't see it because there's no open fields or anything like that. But when you have these open fields that are not being tilled, then you've got the dust at the top, because the tillage, what it does, it brings the moisture to the top and it stops the soil from blowing like it does. So if there's no till practices downstate with the farmers, corn, and they're doing no-till practices, it's going to cause more dust storms. And we see this one. There's also this one. They had to shut down parts of the interstate, I-55 and 74 north near Bloomington, Illinois. So it's happening at a much more frequent rate, I believe. I'll have to figure it out. How bad this really has gotten over the years, and how frequently it's become, or how frequent it's become. But I really do believe that it's because of the no-tillage practices that farmers are implementing here. You get all kinds of, tax incentives if you do environmentally beneficial practices, which include no tilling farming. So if you have this no-till practice in the state, you're going to get all kinds of tax breaks. You're going to get all kinds of rewards. And there's programs where you receive annual payments in exchange for maintaining these practices. That's what's going on here in the state of Illinois. And everybody wonders, man, 7 people died, 30 people hurt in this dust storm. I've never heard of anything like that. Why did this happen? Who do we blame? There is somebody to blame. It's the people who implement these woke policies. And it might not outright say that you aren't allowed to till anymore, and there is no ban on tilling, but there's incentives. So if I'm a farmer and if I want to make a ton of money, what am I going to do? I'm going to do the no tillage practices, and it's going to cause the soil to not be moist, and then it's going to cause it to be very, very dusty, very dry. And then when that wind comes through in May, so the last couple of stories where where I showed you, it was in May of 2023, May of 2024, where they shut down parts of the interstate. That's a period of time in Illinois where the winds pick up, May, June, tornadoes, the winds pick up. Of course, then it's going to blow all of this dust around and it's going to shut down our highway. So everything woke turns to crap. Really. I mean, at the end of the day, woke, DEI is die. Okay. Everything woke turns to crap. DEI is another word for die, right? You've got, I think there was actually a story about an airplane door falling off. And when you put people in positions without, having the merit or the experience, and you put people in positions like, being a pilot, you're going to cause people to die. So DEI, die, everything woke turns to crap, and it really kills people. Woke policies kill people. So we're going to get to more stories here in the 7 o'clock hour. Obama made sure that this guy, his name is Rick Caruso, he made sure through funding that he was not going to be the mayor of LA. He was extremely competent. He lost to the utterly incompetent Mayor Karen. Yes, that is her actual name. Mayor Karen. So he lost to her, and it's because of Barack Obama. That's why we have an incompetent Mayor Karen, and really she's like a DEI hire, and she's totally not competent at all, and she's, one of these DEI type people, and they have a DEI fire department chief, and she's a DEI advocate. She said that that was their number one priority is DEI, and that they were going to get more female firefighters. I'm just thinking to myself, man, you are begging for something like this to happen at this point. So I guess the mayor of Los Angeles was actually in Africa at some point. She, came back, but still really incompetent. They've got no controlled burns. Obviously, the Biden administration stopped all of that because of carbon emissions, although controlled burns are really, really good for forest preservation, and it prevents wildfires, controlled burns. So the fire hydrants don't have any water. What else are we going to get? I actually do want to talk about this. Christmas trees. People are eating their Christmas trees. Another woke thing in Belgium. So they're eating their Christmas trees as a way of recycling them. And now public health officials are saying that's a bad idea. And they're urging people to please stop eating your Christmas trees. So we're going to get to that story inside of Belgium here next on Conservative Cat. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning here on Conservative Cat. Bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Governor Gavin Newscum and his worthless woke policies. So Donald Trump, he blasted Governor Gavin Newsom for these woke policies. I've been talking all morning about dust storms Illinois has been ravaged by over the last couple of years. In May of 2024, there was major shutdowns on I-55, I-74 near Bloomington. And then May of 2023, of course, we know that there were 7 people who died in this dust storm. And it can all be traced back to the no-tillage practices that farmers are participating in. And I don't blame you. If you're a farmer participating in no-tillage practices, I don't really blame you, because who wouldn't take advantage of the tax breaks and the money that the government gives you? And they incentivize these practices. And no-tillage farming, or no-till farming, what it is, and I'm going to explain it, crops are planted directly into the soil without disturbing it with plows or tillage equipment. So they're just planting it right into the soil, and they don't till up the land anymore, the farmers. This method, of course, the leftists say reduces erosion, and it allows the organic matter to remain on the surface. And it's just they say that no-till farming helps store the carbon in the soil and reduces carbon dioxide emissions. So that's what this is. No-till farming is a sustainability thing. And they say, oh, there's no more need for fossil fuel-powered machinery, right? And that further reduces greenhouse gas emissions. So now you've got all these farmers, because they're getting the tax breaks, they're getting the incentives, the rewards for no-tilling and no-till farming practices. And at the expense, though, now we're dealing with dust and dust storms every May, June. So I wouldn't be shocked if we find yet another dust storm in a couple of months here in May, few months in May, when the storms start to pick up, tornado season comes around, and the wind starts to pick up, and all of this dust just comes onto the interstate, and there's car pileups. So before I took the breaks, I was telling you a little bit about Donald Trump and the billions of dollars going to homelessness. And of course, at the expense of the Los Angeles Fire Department, we're funding in Los Angeles the homelessness issue. And we're throwing all this money towards the homelessness industrial complex. And, I think it's funny, the more money you throw towards it, the worse it gets, because Governor Gavin Newsom, his legacy is nothing more than overseeing the worst homeless crisis in California's history. And he's sitting back and he's watching his state just become engulfed in flames. And Governor Gavin Newsom, like I said, he refused to sign while the Trump administration was in. He refused to sign this water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snowmelt from the northern California, to flow down into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in this very apocalyptic way. So Trump, he blasted him. Look, these are progressive priorities, and they're put ahead of like things we should actually care about, like preventing disasters, preventing natural disasters. Okay, this was a natural disaster, this dust storm in Illinois, and it could have been prevented had we not been incentivizing farmers to do this no-till crap. Quote, he wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water. It didn't work. This is what Donald Trump said on Truth Social. But he didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I will demand that this incompetent governor allow fresh, clean, beautiful water to flow into California. He's to blame for this. On top of it all, there's no water in the fire hydrants. There's no firefighting planes. It's probably because, if I had to guess, it's probably because they've defunded the fire department there, and they have taken all of their funding and they've put it towards the homeless issue, which isn't actually solving the homeless crisis there in the state of California. And it seems like the more money they put towards the homeless issue in California, the worse it gets. So let's take a listen. Here is Governor Gavin Newsom on with, of course, Anderson Pooper Cooper. Here we go.
Phase. We're in the public safety phase.
I hate to even ask this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
It's one can't even respond to it. I mean, it's people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden. And he had the backs of every single person in this community. He didn't play politics, didn't try to divide any of us. Base.
Oh boy, where do I even start? First things first, in the beginning of that clip with Anderson Cooper Pooper, he said, I hate to even ask this question to Governor Gavin Newsom. Okay, why? Why did Cooper say that he'd hate to even ask this question? Aren't you a reporter? Isn't that your job, right? To get the response from Governor Gavin Newsom responding to President-elect Donald Trump, blasting him and blaming him for these fires? I think the answer is pretty obvious, but yeah, that's a subject for another day, I guess. Anderson Cooper, I think it's pretty obvious because he's a leftist hack and he's not a journalist, and he is just an arm of the Democrat Party in his role there at CNN. So secondly, I want to address Newsom. Newsom lost the right to criticize anyone for allegedly politicizing a tragedy. That's not what Donald Trump is doing here. He doesn't need it's not. Governor Gavin Newsom is no threat to Donald Trump. Donald Trump has no reason to politicize anything. He's not running for office again. This is his last term as president, and he's not going to run for anything else. He has no reason to politicize anything, so it's not politicizing anything. But Governor Gavin Newsom has no right to criticize anyone for allegedly politicizing a tragedy, considering all the times he's politicized a mass shooting, a natural disaster, just to keep his name in the national headlines. He wants to keep his name in the national headlines because he's not done with politics. Okay, Governor Gavin Newsom, he was trying to present himself as a viable option or alternative to Joe Biden. And he was constantly politicizing mass shootings or natural disasters or anything else he could to get his name in these national headlines. Okay. Thirdly, Newsom inadvertently here actually made Trump's point in talking about what residents have to do have had to do since the fire started. Okay, who has been in charge of California over the last couple of decades, or statewide or in these big cities? Who is in charge? It's these progressive Democrats. Okay, this is Democrat supermajority rule in the state of California, and Democrats like Newsom, who enact policies that cause people to flee one way or another, whether it's due to the coddling of criminals and allowing them to just ravage carnage in their cities and in their communities in California, or the lack of preparedness for these exact situations, these dangerous situations. They're totally unprepared. There's no water in the fire hydrants, and this is really, really dangerous. What's happened over the last these recent weeks, these last couple of weeks with these fires. And the reason why is because they've enacted policies, like I said, that cause people to die. Woke policies cause people to die. So he's kind of inadvertently making Trump's point for him here in this clip. He's talking about all the people dying and, all of the wildfires burning down the churches. Who's been in charge, dude, of California for the last couple of decades? It's been Democrats. So I've got to take a quick break here in just a little bit, but I do want to get to this because Elon Musk actually pointed this out, this mayor of Los Angeles. So not only is Governor Gavin Newsom to blame here, but it's also these DEI hires. There's a fire chief that is a DEI hire, and she's a DEI advocate. And we're seeing specifically Pacific Palisades. They are the worst off with these fires. It's completely just destroyed that community there. And I wouldn't be surprised to find out who started these fires. Are they, actually natural fires that had happened, or is it a bunch of homeless drug addicts in the state of California that started these fires? The homeless drug addicts that the city condones, this LA city mayor condones. Now, I want to play this clip. This is a clip. It's a phone call. Now, this guy, his name is Rick Caruso, and he ran against the current mayor of LA. And Barack Obama funded this Karen woman, and funded her and ensured that he's extremely competent, and he ensured that this guy would not be the mayor. And subsequently, we have now the incompetent mayor, Karen, because Barack Obama had funded this candidate, had funded Karen over the Rick Caruso. So here's Rick Caruso on Fox discussing the wildfires. Here we go.
My heart goes out, obviously, to the people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses around us go up in flames. This is people's livelihoods, so it's devastating. But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this? What was your brush mitigation program? I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that if they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And what's predictable is preventable. And who's paying the price are all of these people in their homes and their businesses tonight. Now, we'll rebuild, but the majority of this community is going to have a tough time rebuilding their lives.
All right, so there you have it, folks. That was Rick Caruso on the phone, and there's no excuse for water not being in the fire hydrants. And I mean, really, what it is, it's the defunding of the Los Angeles Fire Department. And they've put all the funding towards this homeless issue, and they're not even addressing the homeless issue. And make it make sense. Somebody please make it make sense. To add further fuel to the fire, this could have all been prevented had the Biden administration not stopped controlled burns. Like I said, they say that controlled burns for some odd reason emits carbon and that it's bad for the environment, when actually it prevents things like this and it prevents loss of life. The Los Angeles mayor, she was, of course, on vacation. She came back from Africa. She was on vacation. The Los Angeles Fire Department chief, like I said, she's a DEI advocate, and that was her number one priority, was getting more female firefighters in there. The Biden administration, they stopped controlled burns. The fire hydrants don't have water. I mean, you can't make this level of incompetence up. I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. Go ahead and smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Now I'm going to shift gears. We're going to talk a little bit about the story out of Belgium, and it kind of pertains to climate change, these woke policies. And, you know, the left is always coming up with these novel and crazy ways to save the world from climate change. Governor Gavin Newsom not doing this water restoration declaration or signing it and allowing millions of gallons of water to go downstate. But you also have these green weenies where they'll say, oh, tilling up the land to plant is now bad because it causes carbon emissions, and you know you have to use farming equipment to till up the land, and that burns fossil fuels. Yeah, they're always coming up with these crazy, novel, like really weird things to save the world from climate change. This is the weirdest yet, I'm going to be honest. There's a city in Belgium, and, you know, they had advised the citizenry in this the residents in this city, to help save the world by eating their Christmas trees. Yes. Yes, they you thought hippies not showering was bad. No. This city of Ghent is what it's called. It's an environmentalist stronghold in the country's northern Flanders region. So I'm not, you know, up to speed on Belgium, you know, everything that it looks like up there. And like the geographical locations, but this is a little city, and they had posted tips for recycling the trees. And one tip is that they were asking, and they had suggested people eat the needles. The needles could be stripped, they could be dried for making flavored butter. Who the hell wants Christmas tree flavored butter? That doesn't sound in the least bit it does not sound appetizing at all. Blech, nasty. But these people were recommending it. City officials, you had public officials recommending this to the people, this foolish recipe to people. And this is how they would recycle their trees. And it's a flavored butter. And now you actually have Belgium's federal agency for food chain security. They're coming out and they're saying, no, please don't do that. It's bad for you. Christmas trees are not designed to be eaten in either food chain, And that's kind of interesting. I don't know, I'm not like an animal expert or anything, if there are any animals that eat Christmas trees or evergreens. But I've never seen them like picked over. Like there's, certain things that in the wild where you're like, okay, yeah, obviously they eat that, the animals, but I don't even think animals eat evergreens. I'm going to double check, but this is what the food agency, the federal food agencies had said, Belgium's federal food agency had said, quote, Christmas trees are not designed to be eaten in either food chain. There is no way to ensure that eating Christmas trees is safe either for people or animals. And they said that there could be a presence of pesticides on most of the trees cultivated for the season. So, they're growing these trees in bulk and they're using pesticides. They also put flame retardant on them to avoid the Christmas trees being set on fire. If you put them close to the fireplace, a lot of places will do that wherever you get your Christmas tree. The agency added there's no way to tell whether or not the tree has been treated with a flame retardant. And that could lead to fatal consequences if you ingest flame retardant. So the left, just when you thought the left couldn't get more stupid, that they do something like this. The city officials there in Belgium did something like this. So I'll be right back. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in. This is a really weird story, and I wanted to start with this one here in the 7 o'clock hour, but we were wrapping up the woke nonsense that's going on in Los Angeles. They implemented policies much like Illinois that are, sustainability policies, and actually they're woke policies that wind up hurting a lot of people in the end. So, for example, Governor Gavin Newsom, he wanted to protect this smelt fish, and I guess this fish dies from an excess of water, which is why he wouldn't sign this water restoration declaration that was put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snowmelt in the northern region of the state to flow into the main parts of California. And it would have allowed water to flow into Los Angeles, which is currently burning in a very apocalyptic way. And these are what we call progressive priorities here. And they put those ahead, and they're beholden to these progressive priorities over the ways we should prevent these natural disasters. I talked about the no-till. This is incentivized by the state government of Illinois. Farmers practice no-till. And when you have no-till, it subsequently creates dust storms that kill multiple people, like we saw in May of 2023 on I-55. So I want to get to this story. You thought hippies not showering was bad. This is much worse, I think. So leftists, they always come up with these really weird ways to try to save the world from climate change, like no-till or not doing controlled burns or not signing a water restoration declaration that would have provided millions of gallons of water to the rest of the state of California. They always come up with these really weird ways to try to save the world from climate change. Also, new cars. I have a car like this, and I always turn this feature off, where it, like, when you come to a stop sign, it shuts off, and like it doesn't idle. And like that's just such a weird way to try to save the world from climate change. And it doesn't really work. Okay, like I'd imagine like that has no bearing on the carbon emissions when in the grand scheme of things. Let's look over at China and their carbon emissions, okay, before we start having the cars here in the United States not run at stop signs and not sitting in idle. But public health officials in Belgium are now urging the public to stop eating their Christmas trees after this woke city thought it would be helpful to save the world from climate change and recycling their Christmas trees. Why don't you eat it? Eat your Christmas tree as a way of recycling your Christmas tree. Take a listen. Eating your Christmas tree. Belgium says to stop it.
The holiday season is for festivity, meals with the family, and finding a place for that Christmas tree once the celebrations end. Usually you just toss it out or keep it for the next year. But a Belgian city has proposed another option. It wants to turn a post-Christmas dilemma into a foodie adventure. How? By eating your Christmas tree. Of course, this has not gone down well with Belgium's food agency. It is now asking people to not eat their Christmas tree. Our next report tells you why unusual trends like this show up and why a little common sense can go a long way.
Okay, so I'm not lying to you. Public health officials there are now begging the public to stop eating their Christmas trees. So, according to The Guardian, this message came out after the city of Ghent. Now, this is an environmentalist stronghold. It's a woke city, okay? And these officials there started posting tips for recycling their trees, recycling your Christmas tree if you live there in that city. They started posting, these tips, and part of the tips were suggesting that you strip the needles from your Christmas tree, dry them out, and create flavored butter. Not a good idea. Okay, just use a little common sense, can we? One, tree flavored butter doesn't even sound appetizing. Yuck, gross, never doing that. Number two, this foolish recipe is not a way to recycle your Christmas tree effectively. You're just gonna strip your Christmas tree and sit there and strip the needles off of every branch? It seems a little inefficient. Just throw it outside. Okay, throw it outside like a normal person. Just throw it outside, throw it in a field, let it decompose naturally. Set it on fire. That's what we always do. We just set the tree on fire. And it's really fun every single year. You have a big old bonfire and we throw the tree in there. Now, the Federal Food Agency, this federal agency for food chain security, they said, no, this is a bad idea. Don't eat your Christmas tree. They said Christmas trees are not designed to be entered into the food chain. Now, I don't know if animals eat it or not, but they say there's no way to ensure eating Christmas trees is safe for either people or animals. They also said that there could be pesticides. So in order to make these trees in bulk, obviously, they'll use pesticides to try to keep them alive. And cultivate these trees for the season, and they have to make a ton of them, which is why they probably use the pesticides, because they don't want the trees dying. The agency also added that, a lot of these trees, Christmas trees, if you buy it from somewhere, they're coated or they're treated with a flame retardant to avoid the tree setting on fire in your house. It dries out. You put it close to the fireplace, it'll catch on fire. So they treat a lot of these Christmas trees with flame retardants. So that could lead to fatal consequences, according to the federal agency. Extreme leftists in Belgium actually believe that tree flavored butter is going to save the world. No, actually, they started eating Christmas tree butter and recycling their Christmas trees in this really weird, unconventional way. But hey, at least they can say they thought of everything to save humanity, because I literally thought, what else are they going to dream of to try to reduce carbon emissions? They don't want you to set your tree on fire because carbon emissions. They don't want you to do controlled burns. The Biden administration, Maui, that could have easily been prevented by a controlled burn. They just, have good forest preservation practices where they do controlled burns, but the Joe Biden administration, they outlawed that. So you can't do those anymore. And that's what caused the Maui wildfires, because the brush was so dry that the moment these power lines went down, it just started on fire. So yeah, I guess they can say that they've tried everything to save humanity from climate change. Christmas tree butter. Give me a break. All right, I got to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Now, we are going to get to John Fetterman. He is the lone Democrat here, the lone Democrat voice of reason. He is slamming his party for the latest pro-Trump bill they voted against. So yesterday I talked with you about the 159 or so Democrats. They voted against this common sense bill. It's the Lake and Riley bill. And they voted against it because they were like, oh, DACA recipients are going to be thrown into jail if they steal a candy bar, or a DACA recipient's going to be thrown into jail. No. We're talking about illegal immigrants here. We're talking about people who commit crimes on top of the crime of entering the country illegally. They should be deported and put automatically into the custody of ICE, and they should be deported. So we're going to be talking about John Fetterman. He remains the lone Democrat voice of reason. Justin Trudeau is attempting to be a tough guy about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is saying things like, oh, the 51st state of Canada. I don't really think. Now, I do think Greenland could possibly become a territory of the United States. I don't think Canada is going to be the 51st state. I think it's really just a negotiating tactic, and it was a joke that's kind of caught on. And Donald Trump has been saying, oh, the 51st state of Canada. I can't wait for Donald Trump to get in and make the Western Hemisphere great again. But one sentence from Elon Musk puts Justin Trudeau in his place. He attempts to be a tough guy about Donald Trump, saying, oh, Canada's going to be the 51st state. And Elon Musk gets on there and just completely gives him a cyber wedgie, as I like to call him. We completely obliterated Justin Trudeau on X. So we're going to get to all of that. But first, I want to talk about the embarrassing mayor. Karen Bass is her name. So she's had a pretty bad week, but it gets even worse after her presser that she did. It was a press conference, and it was really embarrassing. It was a terrible performance. I would say that Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, if he's looking for competition for worst mayor in America, he could probably find it with this mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. She's a Democrat. Mayor Brandon Johnson and Karen are probably the worst mayors of all time. So Bass, she's a former congresswoman, and in her first term as mayor of Los Angeles, her city, as we all know, is literally on fire. So she was a former congresswoman, and she is in her first term as mayor now of Los Angeles, and her city is on fire. These new wildfires are flaring up almost daily. It's so sad. I actually just watched this video of a little baby deer. Oh, my heart is just broken. Baby deer running around the streets. He'd obviously lost his family, this baby deer, in the wildfire, and he's running around the streets of Los Angeles. So it's just tragic what's going on. New wildfires are popping up daily. They've got no water in the fire hydrants. There's a loss of life, loss of homes, loss of property. And these communities are just absolutely devastated. Now there's questions, folks. There's a question. Where do we go from here? How are we going to fix this and start preventing natural disasters? Are we going to remain beholden to our progressive policies? Or are we going to start preventing natural disasters like this from happening? And I understand there's only so much you can do with natural disasters, okay? You can't stop them from happening, but you can prevent them from getting out of control. For example, the dust storms in Illinois, we can start incentivizing farmers to till, not this no-tilling crap that they're doing right now. Why don't we tell farmers to till? One, it's great for the land. It's great for crops. Your yields are always better if you till it up a lot. Now with fertilizer, right, you're going to have to, till the land more and not use the fertilizer, which big fertilizer, right, is not going to be very happy about that. But let's encourage the farmers to till the land. We can prevent dust storms. Severe dust storms here in the state of Illinois. Let's start doing controlled burns so we can prevent wildfires. So her failures here are impossible to overstate. She has failed epically. And this failure has dated back to before the wildfire started. Okay, she's always been incompetent. She's always been a failure in this role as mayor. And she had a really weird reaction to a reporter asking her some questions about the wildfires and over her failures here with the wildfires specifically. And she just started to stare blankly at this reporter and then ran away, walked away without saying a word. That raised a lot of eyebrows for people. They're concerned. They want answers to this question. Where do we go from here? How are we going to prevent this? How are we going to get water down to the rest of the state of California? Sadly for Bass, this mayor, and for the citizens desperate for real leadership, for a calm in the midst of the storm. You always look to leadership in the calm of the midst for, some calm. And unfortunately, the citizens there in Los Angeles, they're not going to get it. She made matters worse for herself, folks. And I'm going to play this clip. This is her at the press conference. She made matters worse for herself by showing up to this press conference. And she didn't even sound like she in the least bit cared. She was not compassionate. People are looking to her for leadership. She made things worse off for herself by showing up to this press conference, and it turned into a disaster because she didn't have compassion or concern in her voice. Actually, she read directly from this script. She read it so like word for word that she actually said the word or the letters URL instead of saying go to the website for more information. She actually said, you can click on this URL. And it was like she literally read the press release word for word. LA Mayor Bass says she took the fastest way back to LA, by the way. So she was in Africa, and then I guess she took the fastest way back to LA. And then she read at this press conference a prepared script, looking down every second as she delivered remarks at this press conference for the fire. And she delivered these remarks and uttered the letters URL when she was supposed to give out the website address to victims and concerned residents in order to find out more information on help. So she actually said the words the letters URL. Okay, so watch this. Just watch it on the stream. You guys can find it there, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Take a listen here.
Build stronger than ever. Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL. Los Angeles, together is how we will get through this. Through the heroism of our firefighters, the vigilant build stronger than ever. Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL.
At URL, you're supposed to give the name of the website, not say the URL, say the letters URL. This is just completely ridiculous. So another thing I wanted to point out, this tweet has been going around and it's resurfaced. She made fun of Ted Cruz for going on his Cancun trip when, Texas was in the middle of a deadly crisis. This storm, right? They had gotten this snowstorm and it was very irregular. And, Ted Cruz, he left Texas. I think he went on a trip to Cancun with his daughters and he flew with them and he was flying right back. But this tweet resurfaced. Karen Bash, she says, Ted Cruz fleeing from Texas in the middle of a deadly crisis is part of a larger pattern of the GOP abandoning folks in crisis. Girl, you were in Africa. She said that she got back quickly. I don't think she got that back that quickly. But it was a taxpayer-funded trip to Ghana. And she had this deer in headlights look when she was asked by reporters about this crisis. She had this awkward press conference. What do you mean it's a GOP pattern in abandoning folks in crisis? You have no compassion in your voice. You read right off the press release there to the point where you didn't even give the website. You just said the letters URL. You didn't even give the website. So I don't see how she survives this politically speaking. She's never going to come. They are going to, and I hope that the media shines a spotlight on this woman for her failures. And, there's even a larger question here, the funding for the fire department being defunded. I mean, this fire department has been defunded. They've allocated all kinds of money towards the homeless problem, but the homeless problem hasn't gotten any better. The $1.3 billion, I think it's a total scam. But Los Angeles is a Democrat-dominated city, and they're known for routinely, unfortunately, these residents are known for routinely voting in these people of the same political party, vote blue no matter who, and they expect different results every single time. They expect an improved result every single time they go to the ballot box. And unfortunately, until that mindset changes, you're going to continue to deal with, Los Angeles residents, dangerous situations and unacceptable responses. This wasn't an unacceptable response from this woman, and I hope the media shines a light on her failures and shines a light on what kind of lack of compassion there is with this woman. She just has an unacceptable response here at this press conference, and there's been all kinds of unacceptable responses from city, county, state leaders. Governor Gavin Newsom, his response back to Donald Trump about blaming him for these fires was unacceptable. And unfortunately, this is going to continue to happen unless this mindset changes, the vote blue no matter who, and they start voting for not just Republicans, but people who are anti-woke policies and anti-sustainability policies, because they damage people. They kill people. Go woke, go broke. DEI, otherwise known as DIE policies. So I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. They won't, because she's of color. Yeah, they're not going to hold her feet to the fire, the media, because, they're afraid of being accused as a racist, or, oh, you're racist. How could you dare say anything bad about this mayor, Karen Bass? I don't care about her race at all. If she was a competent human being, but we all know that she's in this position because Barack Obama funded her campaign against this very competent individual. Let me get his name. Carusa is his last name. I'm looking for his first name. But he ran, and Barack Obama funded this candidate, Mayor Karen here, over Rick Caruso. And Rick Caruso was a totally competent guy, and they wanted to keep putting it. They want incompetent mayors. They want incompetent DAs. George Soros is backing all of the DAs who are coddling criminals. And then you've got Barack Obama backing these mayors who choose to fund this homeless crisis, which isn't really even helping the $1.3 billion, and defund the fire department. And then they don't implement policies that provide water to the rest of the state. That's Governor Gavin Newsom. Excuse me. Okay, I'm better now. But I mean, you're going to get more of the same unless the Los Angeles mindset changes, or unless you move out of there. So I know Todd Richmond, he had said that he had moved from California. So good for you, Todd. I might run for governor of California. I might just win. Yeah, honestly, that's what needs to start happening is competent people need to start getting into office and running against these people. But even so, even if you have these competent people, you're never going to get anywhere if you have George Soros or Barack Obama or Governor J.B. Pritzker backing you. So that actually happened here locally. You've got, who is it? Jim Rogel. Jim Rogel was funded by the Tides Foundation. It was the dark money group that was connected to the Tides Foundation. That's Governor J.B. Pritzker. And, you've got these great candidates who are super competent running against these Democrats in these areas for these local elections, even the governor. But when you have that amount of funding behind you, I mean, it almost makes it impossible to win. And, these billionaires, millionaires, they're all funding these grossly incompetent candidates. So, but Democrats promise gumdrops and rainbows. Yeah. No. And that's what they're saying with all of these sustainability policies. Oh, we are combating climate change. We are doing the sustainable thing. And even if you have to give up some of your personal freedoms, it's still worth it in the end, because these sustainable policies are, in the grand scheme of things, this is more important that we address climate change. And then they're like, oh, it's all rainbows, butterflies, gumdrops, kittens, because we're saving the planet. In reality, you implement these sustainability policies and they wind up killing people. They actually wind up killing people. So I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in. John Fetterman is the only Democrat that seems to have his head screwed on tight. John Fetterman is the lone Democrat who sees how insane it is to defend illegal aliens who commit crimes post-fact. So not only did they commit the crime of illegally entering the country, but they committed more crimes on top of that, whether that's theft, sex crimes, and that's what the Lake and Riley Act addressed. Hey, if illegal aliens commit crimes outside of the crime of entering the country illegally, then they automatically have to go into the custody of ICE and then they have to be deported. Anybody who's defending this insanity, the illegal aliens who commit crimes on top of the crime of entering the country illegally, I mean, what even are you? You must really want to harbor these foreign nationals who have harmed American citizens. That's what this is all about. If you're defending this insanity of opposing this bill, it did pass out of the House. The Senate's supposed to vote on it, I think, on Friday. So it's unclear how many times American people have to inform the Democrats that they despise illegal immigration, but at least 159 Democrats have yet to acknowledge that the Americans do not like illegal immigration. 159 opposed this Lake and Riley bill. And according to Fetterman, this is exactly why they lost the election in 2024. Take a listen here. Here's Fetterman on Fox News talking about why he actually voted in favor of the Lake and Riley Act and against his colleagues here. Take a look.
To remind everybody that we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of migrants here illegally that have convicted of crimes. And why, I don't know why, who wants to defend that, to allow them to remain in our nation? That. And now if you're here illegally and you're committing crimes and those things, I don't know why anybody thinks that it's controversial that they all need to go.
Do you think that this was one of, if not the biggest issue for this election?
Well, I think if we can't, there's 47 of us in the Senate, and if we can't pull up with 7 votes, if we can't get at least 7 out of 47, and if we can't, then that's the reason why we lost. That's one of them. That's one of why we lost, in part.
Wow. So there's Sean Fetterman. He says, this is why we lost the election, because the Americans, I don't know how many times Americans have to tell the Democrats that we don't like illegal immigration. And the only way the left can get away with this with the most ignorant, so the most ignorant voters, for 2 reasons they can get away with this. One, you've got the media holding their hand and acting as a PR firm for the Democratic Party. That's how they get away with getting reelected, even though the American people don't like illegal immigration too. They'll call illegal immigrants immigrants or migrants, which is intended to confuse the public into thinking that this isn't about, that this bill is not about illegal immigrants and rather immigrants, or maybe DACA residents, which it's not. It's about the people who entered the country illegally, not through a legal port of entry. Okay, this is not about immigrants. This is not even about DACA recipients or DACA residents, which Donald Trump has already said that he is looking into amnesty for those and working with the Democrats for those people. So I just don't. The Senate's going to act or vote on this on Friday, I believe. Fetterman is the only Democrat senator who publicly supported this very reasonable bill, and that's sad. All right, you guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. I love you. We'll be back again tomorrow morning, bright and early at 6 a.m. We'll talk soon, and find me on YouTube and subscribe to the channel today.